This game looks like anime Dark Souls, but we have so much more, like cliche anime characters, anime character models with massive eyes, massive swords and weapons. Yeah, this game really is anime Dark Souls from an outsider's perspective, huh? Anyways, this is Code Vein. I made a video on this before, but in that video, I hadn't fully progressed through the game. I didn't even really scratch on the game by the time I made that video. I just explained everything basically. Boring video. Wait, we don't talk about it. Anyways, this video, I finished the game. The game has improved quite a bit. What really shines in this game is the builds. The builds are super fucking cool. Now we're going to talk about everything else, but let me explain the builds really quick. Now, I said I was going to be talking about the weapon system, but I more so meant the blood codes in the game because the blood codes is kind of the root of it all. The blood codes is like your base layer. That is what tells you what you are going to be good with. Now you can change what you're going to be good with, and you'll get more as you progress through the game, and you murder more people, and you steal their blood codes or whatever, and they have a bunch of gifts that you can inherit. You get good enough with these gifts, and you could put them on other blood codes, and there's a lot of like combos you can do with blood codes and weapons and blood veils and stuff like that just really makes the weapon system in this game super interesting. Alright, now that that's out of the way, let's start talking about my actual playthrough. This is my second video, so I'm not going to cover the first 3 bosses. I'm sorry if you missed it, just go back and watch the other video. Alright, so we're starting off with the Cathedral of the Sacred Blood. This place looks amazing. I think it is a super pretty area with very nice designs on the textures, but goddamn, this place is so much of the same. I got stuck here for like 2 fucking hours. I had to watch like 3 guides, and this could be a skill issue on my part because I'm not observant, but man, I never want to see this area again. I was so goddamn lost. Aside from that though, there was 2 bosses. First boss was pretty cool. It was a mini boss pretty much. Called the Argent Wolf Berserker. He had a solid moveset. He was a pretty fair fight. Only real complaint about this fight was the annoying run back after he kicked my ass a couple times. The other boss is the big main story boss. I don't really want to talk about the lore, but successor of the Ribcage. Yeah, she has a cool design, but man, the actual fight was kind of lame. It just kind of spewed magic attacks at you, and it didn't really do much else other than that. But there was like one big magic attack that was hard to dodge and it one-shot you. Oh man, that's real problematic. But that's all we really got to say. The enemies were like, they're cool, I guess. Some of them were annoying, but like, most of them were fine. Most of them were just reused. Not much else to say about this area. It was just massive and a bit annoying, and I just never really want to go back here again. Oh boy, I wonder what area is going to be next. Oh my dear lord. It's a woman! Anyways, next part of the game that I played was the backstory arc, which was kind of explains where you came from and what happened before the story, you know, like basic backstory things. Wow, who could have guessed this? This is a very short area with some mild differences in the enemies, but this is the first time where you get Jack as a companion, which is pretty cool. He's a pretty strong guy. He's like a mix between Louis and Yakumo, what it feels like. There's only one boss in this area, which is a badass knight guy. Man, this guy's design is so over the top, edgy, and badass. I love it. But wasn't too hard of a fight. He just has a generic knight's kit. There's not too much out of the ordinary with his swings. They look cool. They're big and flashy animation wise. It's a generic knight. I did also forget to mention that in the fight he does turn invisible and make you react off animations. Oh, he's invisible. Sick. Oh, fuck me. This is actually like one of my favorite fights. It's very simple, but I really liked it. Anyways, this area is mostly just for story purposes, as it shows a whole scene with the queen, and you get the Queenslayer blood code. So there's not too much else to say about this area, but I mean, the Queenslayer blood code in general just made this entire area worth it. Moving on, now we're chasing down the other successors, and that leads us to the snow area, which shows us a lot of Mia's backstory and stuff. And this area was pretty cool. It was pretty chill. I'll shut up now. Anyways, it seemed like it really promoted the ranger playstyle, or that's the gist I got out of it. So I used a gun, and it was a lot of fun, honestly. I feel like this area was very fun and entertaining with the gun, because it also had a lot of ambushes that made it balance. It wasn't like I was just running through the area with a gun. And had one boss, which was the next successor. And this boss, I don't really have anything bad to say about it. It was a cool design. I like the moose antlers, and I love the razor sharp shield. It just charged at you and tried to like find any way possible to close the gap. So like, it was really fun to play with your gun. It was a solid fight. I don't think I liked it as much as the Queen's Knight, because That was badass. I think this was a good fight, a solid area. For sure a better area than what we have coming up next. Speaking of which, we are moving on to the Ashran Cavern, which is kind of like a connector place. It's kind of weird. It's a short area with no real main boss. Like there's like a mini boss guy in here, but that's about it. This is where we're starting to help Jack. Jack's coming more into the story now. But like there's not too much in this area. You're just kind of like roaming through a cave until you find this big bad guy called the Gilded Hunter. You kill him, you take his dog tags, and then you know, take his wife and kids, move on with your day, and then this area is pretty much just made to connect to the next area. And that next area is the City of the Falling Flame, which happens to be one of my favorite areas in the game. Why exactly? I don't know. I just ended up liking this area for whatever reason. It was very simple. It was just everything was on fire and the ground hurt you as well. But the enemies were pretty fair, honestly. I didn't find any issues with the enemies. The exploration wasn't too tedious and annoying. It was a decently lengthy area. Like it wasn't like too short, wasn't too long. And it was also home to one of my favorite boss fights, which happens to be linked with Yakumo's backstory, and this boss happened to be a cat girl. I swear this wasn't one of my favorite bosses because it's a cat girl. This boss was actually cool, I swear to God. It was like a nuclear cat. She pounced on you and everything explodes. Also, I was using a different weapon for this fight, which could have affected my experience. I was using a heavy weapon, big bonk, haha. This fight was very good. It was very well balanced. It felt like it was solid difficulty, and it wasn't too long of a fight. I was doing solid damage. It had an interesting moveset, and it had good lore implications. So overall, I think this area was like top 3 for me, one of my favorites. And now from one of my favorites to quite literally my least favorite area in this entire game. Holy shit, the sand area is terrible. I hated this place. Now, if you like this place, good for you. But man, I just hate any area that slows my movement. You walk through deep sand and it slows your movement and drains your ichor. And it is just so annoying and tedious. There's not a lot of checkpoints in this area, so you just have to go through these long shortcuts with an elevator. And the enemies aren't even that cool, they're just big bugs. The boss fight of this area, there's nothing really to write home about. It was a pretty boring boss. So the boss run itself was pretty long because you had to go through the shortcut, so that was pretty annoying. But there's literally nothing else to say about this area. This area sucked. I hated it. This area can go to jail. I don't like it. All right, and now on to the second last area of the game. The last one I'm gonna be covering this video because I don't want to cover the last area. You can go figure that out for yourself. Anyways, this is the Spiral Tower. This area is pretty cool looking. I like it. It's a very vertical design, so you just climb the tower. Wow, who could have guessed that? Basic enemies, a lot of them, so there's a decent bit of difficulty in the area, actually, which made it quite interesting. And this area has 2 bosses. Well, kind of 3. It has, like, 2 main bosses. One boss is the Ornstein and Smo of this game, and holy shit, this was so annoying. I switched to Yakumo for a bit of a beefier companion, and man, it gave me so much trouble. I didn't like how balanced it was, just because it felt so random. Especially with the fireball guy, he would just suddenly turn aggro to me and just blow me up while I was fighting the other lady, and it was just so annoying. This boss fight was a huge pain in the ass, and I didn't like it at all. But there was a reward at the end of the tunnel, because back-to-back boss fight, straight afterwards you're fighting Juzo Mito, which is one of the big story bosses that you'll find. He's been hyped up for a while in the story, and it didn't really disappoint. It was a pretty solid fight. It had good difficulty. It took me a good couple tries. He had a cool moveset. He had a second phase. He did a lot of damage. Oh, and I really like this fight a lot. It was very entertaining, and I think this was definitely one of the very strong fights in the series. Anyways, that is all for the actual gameplay part of this video. This game is actually a very solid game, and it is not like any other Souls game I've played, or Souls-like in general, because I must admit, the gameplay itself does lack a bit of polish. The weapons are super cool, and the allies are super cool, but just actually fighting in general, it just feels a bit clunky and slow at times, because all the hitboxes are super weird, and there isn't a lot of attack diversity in the bosses I found. But that's not the main reason that I enjoyed the game anyways. I enjoyed this game because of the characters, honestly. The characters are all cheesy, corny, whatever you want to call them. They're just generic, like, characters. But that doesn't mean they're not lovable. They're still very entertaining to have, and having one accompany you the entire time just makes you actually grow attached and care about these characters. It's actually a super cool mechanic that I really liked. And also, every character gets a backstory. They all have some sort of development commitment to them. Like, you know how they're related to the cause. And then you even later in the story, when you have Jack join you, like, he doesn't just join you right away. He's actually an enemy at first, or he's set up to be one. And he also has one of the coolest themes in the entire game, which I hate is only used like once. But overall, this game's solid. I think you should play it, but I don't think you should play it as a Dark Souls equivalent. This game on its own is pretty good, but comparing it to the actual Soulsborne series is just unfair. But yeah, that's all I have to really say for this video. Thank you again for reminding me to play it. A person in the comment that I'm gonna show here. And that's all for this video. So thanks for watching.